Thank you, Tal. Uh, Tal will be presenting later today, and she's amazing. So if you get to see her session, I would highly recommend that. All right, well, welcome everyone to the Power of Direct Instruction for Struggling Readers. I'm Laura Stam. I'm a third grade teacher in Wyoming, and there's a lot of other things. One new thing, I have a new podcast called Teach Smarter, the Science of Learning with Brett Benson. We had just had our first episode air last week. So that's kind of something new, exciting you can check out. All right. Um, The the focus of this session is direct instruction programs and just kind of a little bit of context and background. I had been teaching second grade for a few years, and our school had made the shift to the science of reading. And so our kindergarten and first grade were using Orton Gillingham based phonics programs, and we were seeing a lot of success with that. However, I was still getting students coming up who had that good instruction that were still not successful and they were struggling. And I had kind of tried, to continue with those types of practices, and I was not able to accelerate them where they needed to be by the end of the year. And so I started seeking out alternative programs that I could use to maybe figure out how to accelerate them. And I discovered direct instruction. I think I first heard about it from Zach Rochelle's podcast that he does for the National Institute for Direct Instruction. And everything that I reference here, just so you know, I have a Padlet at the end that you'll be able to access, and it'll have all the links to all these things. Anyway, and so I heard about direct instruction from that, and so I decided to look into it. And then I also contacted Marcy Stein, who is with the National Institute for Direct Instruction. And so she directed me to the programs Reading Mastery and Teach Your Child to Read in 100 Easy Lessons. And um, she said that 100 Easy Lessons, while this is a book written for parents to teach their children at home, it is an accelerated K-1 program. So it works really well for your students that are like, well, mine were in second grade that really need to accelerate. And K, if I started them in K, it'd be too slow in reading mastery. So that's a nice place to get them started if they're, up in second grade or even in first. And then they also have the curriculum reading mastery, and they have those from grade K. I don't know how high up it goes, but grades K and first are specifically like phonics focused. So if you have students that are struggling with phonics, those K1 programs are kind of what you want to look at. So just so you're aware of that. Okay, so as we go through this, I'll show you first the data of my students when they were coming in. I'll introduce you to what those instruction programs look like, just show you kind of what a lesson, how they flow. And then we will also look at some instructional moves that are highly effective, not only while you're teaching direct instruction, but also when you start using direct instruction, you start implementing these in your regular instruction because they are so effective they're just really good teaching skills. And then I'll show you the results after using this program. All right, so we take the NWA map. As a district. It's just our summative assessment that we give 3 times a year. So we give it in the fall, winter, and spring. So these students, I have 10 students in the fall that were below the 40th percentile, and we consider kind of the 50th. Or above starting to be proficient. So they are way below proficient where we want them to be. So that's kind of just to kind of see where those students are landing when I got them coming into second. And then we also do a cadence, which is a screener. And so specifically looking at the oral reading fluency assessment that we give in second grade, you can see that this is kind of how we determined what specific needs that these students had. So when we look at group one, these students are really struggling with accuracy. They're below the 60th percentile, or 60% accuracy. And I would actually say I had this student down here in the 60 and 68%. I would say he should have moved into this first group. So this is the group I determined needed to be in the 100 easy lessons. We were really, really struggling. We needed to start uh, kind of at the beginning. Then I had group two, and these students were about 70% in this, below 80% accurate. There is also a placement test for reading mastery, so I gave that to them as well. And so they also fell into this reading mastery level. Grade one is what it would be. And I use the signature edition, just so that's clear. And then this third student, he was on an IEP. He was pulled out for his intervention. I did not have another time that I could work with him. So he did not receive direct instruction. His teacher used something else. And then this fourth group, um, they were accurate and pretty fluent. So they needed to work on fluency and comprehension. So they were in a different intervention, not with direct instruction. Okay. So I'll go back to that page. So I'm just going to give you a minute to just kind of take, you can look at the data and see how I made groups and take some key takeaways for a second about that. So let's see if I can figure out how to go backwards. Oh no, there we go. There we go. So just give you about a minute. Okay. So now we'll look at kind of what a lesson looks like. So once again, these students were below 60%, and I would almost say even below 70%. But yeah, determining who should be in this accuracy on an oral reading fluency passage. The lessons are really short. Like I said, these are actually written for parents to do with their children at home. So they're really short lessons, about 20 minutes. And so I would do that 4 times a week. And then I had a 45-minute intervention block. And so for the remaining time, they would be in a decodable text that I knew they would be successful with. And then I had a paraprofessional push in at that time who would monitor that while I taught a second group. But what's interesting is because of how successful and how well written these programs are, after lesson 35, these students were ready to move into reading mastery. So they only didn't needed it for about 35 lessons, and then it accelerated them up into the reading mastery. So then they got combined into the reading mastery group. So just kind of this just kind of gives you a good view of what a lesson looks like. It'll start with sounds and having like you telling them the sound, and then they will be saying the sound. And there's some rhyming. So there's some visual and some oral stuff, things that they don't see. So rhyming. But it's having the child is interacting with this content constantly throughout, and we'll talk about that more. But just kind of see, so this is kind of a beginning lesson. And then what's interesting, by lesson 76 of 100 easy lessons, this is the text they are reading at this point. So like I said, it is a really nice acceleration of like getting them caught up faster than you would normally. So I do have a little bit of a video just to kind of show you how I use that book with a little group. My turn. Whose turn? My turn. Okay. Here's a new sound. I'm going to touch under the sound and say the sound. Ooh. Your turn to say the sound when I touch it under it. Get ready? Go. Whoa. Say it. Whoa. Say it with me. Whoa. There we go. Take a good look at each sound. Say slowly if you can. Get ready. Go. Oh. Oh, this is an L. Say it. Oh. Mm. It. Mm. Okay, I'm gonna have you say a sound when I point to it. Here we go. Mm. Mm. It. Oh. Excellent. Okay, and that just kind of shows you how I use that book in a small group. Um, and also, before I forget, uh, on the National Institute for Direct Instruction website, they do have trainings in 100 Easy Lessons and in Reading Mastery. And if you are able to, I would highly recommend taking those. They are scripted and you really can just pick them up and go. But there's a few little nuances that really that make a big difference. So if you are able to take that training, I would recommend that. All right, so my second group that had a little bit better reading accuracy in the 70%, and also based on their placement test. Um, this was, like I said, I had a 45-minute intervention. So I would actually start with my group two. And the beginning lessons are a little bit shorter. So it would be about 25 minutes. And then they had an independent worksheet that they could do on their own for the remaining 10 minutes. So I would pull my 100 Easy Lessons group at that time out so that they would just made it simpler to manage what the students were doing with the paraprofessional. And then they would partner read at that time too. And then when I combined all of those groups, because that 100 Easy Lesson group moved up into Reading Mastery, then it was a 35-minute lesson because the lessons do get longer as you go through, and 4 times a week. And then they would have a 10-minute independent worksheet on their own. So let's show you what a lesson looks like. This is a later lesson, but most lessons start with like a sound with the sounds. So this one's just starting with the sound of ing. And then they start building it into words. You can see this little part here. This is an AR they had learned earlier, so they're reviewing that. Then they're reading these words will be reading as a group, and then you have individuals read those words. So they're getting a ton of practice with those words and making sure they're really successful with the sounds and the words. And then they move into a reading passage that is in this corner. You can see this little book. This is a book that they have and read with them, or that they read on their own. And then so you'll read that. They have different variations where you're reading part of it as the group, and then you will ask them to read individually. But because of all the work that they has gone into um, setting them up to be successful, they are quite confident reading independently at this point. And then it does have comprehension questions that you read that you do as a class, and then in the independent worksheet as well. And I will show you all this in video so you can see what it looks like. So, um, yeah, I'll just give you a second. Just take a little quick breather really quick if there's things you want to jot down or think about. I'll go back to just kind of that page so you can look at that. Okay, so um We're going to talk about just the strategies, and then I will show you video clips of all of this in action so you can kind of see what this looks like. So, what makes direct instruction so powerful is one, the lessons are um, highly sequenced, and generally they only introduce about 20% of new content each lesson. So the rest is stuff that they have already learned. And so they are practicing it in different ways and really consolidating that information really well. All DI and programs are similar to this. Um, it's scripted, which is really nice because then you are only saying what needs to be said and not adding extra language that doesn't need to be said. And it keeps your language consistent so that students can concentrate on the learning and not on the verbiage that you are using. Because sometimes we'll say something in a different way and then they're confused, like, okay, what are they wanting me to do? They don't have to deal with that cognitive load. They can just focus on the learning. And it just keeps your language really concise so that you're not, yeah, you're only saying the important things and you're saying it well. It's a huge high rates of active participation. I say something, they say something, and it is constant back and forth. This is not them sitting and listening to you. They are engaging with this learning constantly, and you are constantly and you're working as a whole group and you're working with the individual as well. So it's not only whole group and it's not only individual. So they get a lot of practice together. And then when they're feeling comfortable and confident, then you call on them individually and they are ready to perform. Choral response is an absolute must. This is something that especially in the training, they said this is something that needs to be done um, in unison so that because what happens is sometimes you'll have those students that are dominant, and then the students that are not quite as confident will wait until that student answers, and then you don't really hear you don't hear the true feedback that you'll need to see what's going on. Because you want to be able to hear if you hear something incorrect, you need that information to know if those students are accurate or not. So you'll give a cue and you'll do verbal or nonverbal depending on what the red lesson requires. And then I do a teacher versus student and have them practice until everyone can respond in unison. And eventually they get into a rhythm and they start doing this really well. And I use choral response now in my regular teaching, and my whole class will is able to do this. And it's highly effective. It gives me a lot of information really quickly with a lot of questions. This thing is probably too the most important thing is the strategic pauses for thinking. Once again, you have students that can answer right away, but you also have students that need some time to process. And so it's usually 2 seconds, sometimes more depending on the question. But giving that pause allows everyone the chance to determine their response and then answering together. Or if you're calling on individuals, just giving them 2 seconds to process that, which is really valuable. Um, and then students are getting immediate feedback and error correction. So they're getting positive feedback and they're feeling a high rate of success because you told them something and they're repeating it and they're starting to feel confident. And then later, when they're having to do something on their own, they have a lot of motivation and desire to and confidence to do this because they have felt so much success over and over as you've been giving them that constant feedback. And then it's helping them develop mastery. Okay, so let's move into some videos. So this first video is practicing that cue to answer in unison. Get ready. Wait till I touch it. Get ready. Ooh, what is it? One more time. Get ready. Get ready. Remember when my fingers as we stop. Let's try that again. Here we go. One more time. Get ready. That's just an example of making sure they're able to follow those cues together. This is an example of error correction, and error corrections are scripted in there. So if they make an error, the book does tell you how to correct it. Um, And oh, sometimes you'll just tell them the word, sometimes you'll have them sound it out, and then they repeat it, and then you go back a few and then come back to it just to really make sure that they do have it solid.
Read these words the fast way. Get ready.
Story.
Yes, story. Read these words the fast way. Get ready.
Dash.
Get ready.
These.
Get ready.
Dine.
Get ready.
Other.
Get ready.
Get.
Get ready.
For.
Get ready.
Look.
Oh, look. What's the word?
Look.
One more time. Get ready.
Look.
Back up here. Get ready.
Other.
Get ready.
Get.
Get ready.
For.
Get ready.
Look.
Get ready.
Took.
So that's just a good example of when you hear that choral response when they messed up, you were able to hear that and then you can go back and fix it. Right, and then this is an example of when an individual student is being tested. So what you want to do is you want to cue everyone to get ready. Don't say who you're going to call on because then that makes ensures that every student is thinking and every student is ready to respond. And then because as soon as you say a student's name, then the other students will check out. They don't have to answer, so they're not going to think. So this way you make sure everyone's thinking, then pause then say the student's name.
Show call. Get ready. Eli.
Other.
Get ready. Corby.
Get.
Get ready. Davis.
For.
Get ready. Elias.
Book.
Get ready. Easton.
Took.
Get ready. Ida.
Books.
Get ready. Everybody.
She.
So you want to make sure everyone's ready because sometimes they all get called on. Okay, and then once they've done that work with the, like I said, with the words and the sounds, now they're going to do this in their reading. So this is just an example of what that reading looks like.
48. Everybody touch the title of the story and get ready to read it the fast way. All right, get ready.
Stop.
Ooh, one more time. Let's read that again. Go.
Spot.
Yes, spot. Everybody say the title. Go.
Spot.
Everybody get ready to read the story the fast way. First word. All right, first word. Get ready.
This
Next word. Get ready.
is
Next word. Get ready.
a
Next word. Get ready.
story
Next word. Get ready.
of
Next word. Get ready.
a
Next word. Get ready.
dog
Next word. Get ready.
named
Next word. Get ready.
Spot.
I'm going to call on individual children to read a sentence. Everybody follow along and point to the words. If you hear a mistake, raise your hand. Go ahead, Eli.
So Spot gave the man a dime.
Corby.
Then she took the bones home and had a fine meal of bones.
Last sentence, everybody. Go.
The end.
Okay, very good.
Okay, and then here's a video on the whole group comprehension questions, and I'll use, and it has it in the book how to do it, but sometimes you will read the question first, then say a student name to answer, or one student will read the question and then you will answer as a group.
Go ahead, Davis.
He said, "Pay me a dime for these bones."
Okay, everybody, what did the man say now? Go.
Pay me a dime for these bones.
How much did Spot pay for the bones? Go.
A dime. 10 cents.
Look at the picture.
This one, it's a nice one. It's a good.
Why do you think Spot has her paw on her ear like that? Okay, Ida?
Because she was like, "What did you say?"
Okay, just kind of I think you can find videos too of actual professionals delivering this instruction. So If you want, you can probably find people who do this a lot better than I do, just so you're aware. Okay, so just take a minute, jot down some key takeaways and how you could use this in your classroom, and then we'll go to the next thing. We'll go back to this slide here. That might be helpful. Okay. One, two. Okay. Is this where I want to be? Yeah. Okay, so this is how the year ended. At the beginning of the year, I had 10 below the 40th percentile, and by the end of the year, I had six at or above the 60th percentile. And like I said, our school has determined that 50th is kind of where we want everyone to be. So I had never ever been able to accelerate students to this level ever before, especially this many students. It was a huge success, and I was shocked by how well they were, how much of a difference it made for them that I'd never been able to do this with anything else. Um, so this is really exciting. Now, is it this one? Let's see. Just kind of to look at. So I actually looped up with these students into third grade, and I kind of wanted to compare, were they able to retain this, or was this just a one-time thing? And so when we look at their third grade end of year, well, even when we look at their fall, you can see that they're kind of maintaining their scores across the board. There's a couple anomalies, but most of them stay pretty close to where they ended in the fall or in the spring to fall, which usually you'll see a big dip, and these students didn't make a huge dip except for one of them. So in the fall, it was 40th percentile, or five above the 40th percentile and five below. And then when we look at their end of year, those students that were around the 70th and 80th stayed up into that group. Then these students who ended second grade at the 35th and even this 12th percentile moved into the 50th percentile, which was amazing. And then these students here did not make a lot of growth, or these two did not make a lot of growth. But this one here did grow a little bit, but not quite where we wanted them to be. However, in third grade, we start taking the state assessments. So we call it the Y-top. And so I'm going to show you something interesting about that in a minute. But first, I wanted to point out a couple of these students. So student 10, this student here. So this is the student that I was not able to do reading mastery with in second grade. But I was able to do some work with them in third grade. I didn't do a direct instruction program, but I did do ABLY with them, and this student grew 37 points. So this is huge. And his only accommodation on his IEP for a reading assessment is to read out loud. So he doesn't get it read to him. So this is all his own reading. So that was really exciting to see. He was pretty proud of himself. And then this student, student 6. So this is a student that I have been tutoring since second grade, the summer before he started second grade. And I tutor him almost every day after school, all through second and third grade. And he really, really struggles to make growth. So growth is really minimal for him. But by the end of third grade, on his Acadians, he was starting at 38 words correct a minute, and he jumped up to 76 words correct per minute and up into the 50th percentile. So this was a really exciting thing to see him growing as well. And I know that reading mastery was a huge part of him being successful with that. I wrote a piece about it that I linked as well, that if you want to read kind of his journey of how we've helped him grow. So here's now looking at our Y top. So this is really interesting. So once again, we are kind of determined if they're in the 70th percentile, they're going to be proficient on the Y top. Um, Now this is interesting. So we had these students in the 50th and they all scored below basic. So I'm not really sure what happened here. So they were successful on math, not very successful on Y-top. This is really strange. But then even stranger is here we have these students that did not do very well. I mean, dropped from their second grade to their third grade, but then they scored proficient and basic on the Y-top. So it's I think there's some other factors that I'm going to be looking into, like self-efficacy. And it is the first time they take it, so I don't know if that was a key factor too. But it's kind of interesting that my lowest here on MAP did really well on Y-top, and then my 50th didn't do so well. So it's kind of we were kind of looking into that data, but just kind of an interesting piece to look at. All right, so then I just wanted to kind of make you aware of these two. Once they get into third grade, reading mastery is really not appropriate. They do have corrective reading, which is geared more towards third grade and older. You can use it up into high school. So if you have older students, you would want to use corrective reading instead of reading mastery. So reading mastery, I would use K2. And then I also integrated Ebbly, which really helps accelerate them too at these higher levels because it does a lot of work with multisyllabic words and spelling and morphology and stuff. So these two combined are what I used in third grade for my students too, the ones that just really struggle. So okay, so that's it. I think we have, yeah, that leaves us some good time for questions. There's my information in the Padlet too. Feel free to contact me if you have questions or want to talk more about this. But yeah, let's open it up to questions now.
Laura, that was so fantastic. Thanks for sharing. Can I read you some of the questions we have from the chat?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, the first one is reading mastery a pick up and go curriculum, or does it require additional teacher training to implement it well?
I got it and started going with it, but then if you are able to get the training, I can't remember how much it was. It's like $100 around there. My school did pay for that. I would recommend getting it. There's just a lot of little things like that. I wasn't pausing the 2 seconds. There was just some stuff with cueing, the feedback. There's just some little things that just make it nice. But if you can't get the training, I would not say not do it. I would get it and then maybe watch some videos of stuff and watching people do it so you can kind of train yourself. So that's what I would recommend. Yeah.
Awesome. And where do folks get that training from?
If you go to the National Institute for Direct Instruction website, and it is in the Padlet, they have a calendar of trainings and they just come up once in a while and they do it's on various direct instruction programs. So you just kind of find a time when it's open to take it. Yeah. And they're online. They do have some in person, but they do have them online so you can do them. And I think it's like a day. I think mine took a whole day. Might have been two, but I
Fantastic.
think it was just one. So yeah. Yep.
So, is this regarded as an intervention? And if so, what is happening at Tier 1? I imagine it could be quite different instruction.
Yeah, so honestly, ideally, but this would require a structure change in your school. Ideally, this would be a great program to use as tier one. But the problem is you do have to put them in groups, so they have to be in, I'm not like ability grouping is the word I'm thinking of. I think there's a better way to say that. So if you're not able to do ability grouping, then yes, it is an excellent intervention. Um, but yeah, so what I continued whole group, I did continue tier one, Orton Gillingham, um, uh, reading program is what I did. If I went back, I'd do something else. But my tier one instruction was Orton Gillingham, but it worked fine. It wasn't a problem using both programs. So whatever
Great.
if you're required to use that something else for tier one, then it works. It's fine.
Great. Was this difficult for neurodivergent students and SEN students who find concentration challenging?
No, so that's what I love about DI is they are constantly back and forth. Um, it- there's little time to get distracted because they're constantly interacting. So that's what's really nice for them. Yeah.
What recommendations would you offer for the kids who struggled to make progress?
So that one student I showed you didn't end second grade where I wanted him to. I started implementing things like Ebley, like a linguistic phonics type thing. Um, and then I started doing precision teaching. That was really what so I would do a daily, it's kind of hard to explain in right now, but I would look into precision teaching and figuring out how to it's a daily check-in where they are making daily goals, and that really started helping to accelerate him into other things. Yeah.
Fantastic. Based on this data, your students do math in second grade. What would you suggest for school systems that do not? What other measures do you use to track progress?
Well, so Acadience is a good screener, and or is some kind of screener. I know they have free ones, and I cannot think of. I think there's Core Phonics. Dibbles 8 is a free screener. I would definitely recommend that. That one's free, and it's closely aligned with Acadience. That's what I would use. I would, and if anything, just do an oral reading fluency and get their accuracy and their words correct, and that'll kind of give you a good baseline. And then, like I said, all those direct instruction programs have placement tests, so that helps you to know where to place them. Yeah.
Awesome. And last one from the chat. Do the
Okay.
kids need to come with some foundational skills, as in awareness of the alphabetic principle or some GPK?
So, the 100 easy lessons can be started with 3 and 4 year olds. So they are not coming, well, I'm sure they've been exposed to some things, but you're assuming they don't know anything. And so your students that really do struggle with that, you can start them there at that 100 easy, at the beginning lesson of 100 easy lessons. It is a little bit different than your traditional, like we're going to teach them the alphabet and the letters. It is a little bit, I wouldn't say it's linguistic phonics, but a little bit more towards is it speech to print? Is that what I'm saying? I'm not saying that right at all. Um,
Speech right.
yeah, a speech to print, it's very similar to a speech to print, and there's not a lot of rules, and there's not a like it's just very in an OG program, you're kind of giving rules and explanations, and you don't really have to they don't they don't fill the time up with that. I'm not saying that correctly, but and now I forgot the question, but yeah, I don't know. They don't. If you start them in the 100 easy lessons, if that's where they are at that level. Yeah.
Great. And
Yeah.
last one that
Yeah.
just popped into the chat. I conducted a
Okay.
peer observation with a teacher who was using the corrective reading curriculum, and I was very impressed by how effective it was. I shared my observations with my school leaders because I thought would be a great fit for our students. However, I was informed that adopting a new curriculum is a lengthy and complicated process. Now I'm unsure of what to do next because I truly believe in the effectiveness of the curriculum and would love to see it implemented.
So this is what I did. I just got on Amazon, found it used, and just bought it myself. And then just used it. I mean, if unless they are very like you have to use this in your intervention. But if you're able to, just kind of try and find it, um, and buy it and just try it if they'll let if that's allowed. That's what I do, and then my school likes it and then they buy it. So I don't know if that's helpful, but I know yeah, it's amazing, and it is highly effective. So yeah. Yeah.
We we are in our last minute here. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Laura. If anyone would like to unmute to share one last question or word of wisdom, we're going to wrap up here and folks will move to their next session.
Thank you, everyone. I hope this was helpful for you. I'm really honored that you would join my session. So